it's Gloomy Fish, and I'm finally doing this sketchbook tour. So this is my 16th sketchbook, and it was from the 10th of May to the 23rd of August, and that's quite long for me to have a sketchbook because I actually did make more use of space in this one, and I didn't rip pages out. So yeah, I managed to keep it for a little bit longer, which is I always like it when they last longer because sketchbooks are like my soul. Yeah. Anyway, this is going to be in two parts because it's a really long sketchbook. So yeah, two parts. So this was a customizable sketchbook. First time I ever got one of these, so I drew the magical star sign heroine on it. Yeah, some things I stuck here. That's my cat, Honey. And I started this in an art block. So it took me ages to decide what to draw on the first page. And I finally decided to do fan art of the song Star of the Show by Ghost. And this was just a doodle, the Sea of Tea. I was watching a video by Rambutan Illustration and it inspired me to draw this for some reason. I can't even remember what it was I was watching. A doodle I did way later because by that point I had got over my fear of drawing on the other side of the page. So I decided to draw my OC Stretto messing around with a cat hat. I don't know. I don't know how I got that idea. Random doodle that I hate. Collage. Pink diamond picture that went wrong, so I covered it with things. A doodle to try and help me get over my fear of drawing on the other page. Yeah. I had no idea what to draw here, so I drew this. I drew this towards the end of my sketchbook because again I was trying to make as much use of space as possible, and this was an automatic drawing. Yeah. It's Honey again in a plastic bag. Yeah. She climbed into a plastic bag like years ago. I don't know. I was trying to redraw this old OC I used to have. And it went really wrong, and then I just really weirdly messed it up because I didn't want to rip the page out. Yeah. The space-filling fish. If you watched my sketchbook tour part 2 of sketchbook 15, I titled that video my best sketchbook ever, which is no longer my best sketchbook ever anymore, but yeah, I had these things called Gloomy's Little Monsters. In any case, these are 3 of them. Yeah. Some doodles from last year or something, I don't know. A redraw of the first ever picture I did of Mr. Tarot, which was 10 years ago now. That's scary. So yeah, he's my oldest OC. Oh yeah, and that's Disinfectant, his pet. Yeah. Something I drew while waiting for something. My default drawing when I don't know what to draw is always a girl, just a random girl, so I've decided to try and push myself to draw random boys for a change. Yeah. Vocaloids, Oliver and Fukase. And I like to call these the post-it note pages. Again, I did these way later. Lionel from Animal Crossing, Nara, an OC, 3 more OCs. Yeah, I was just messing around with post-it notes. And then this, I had like a major art block. I drew a robot, and it was a really stiff, boring robot, so I decided to jazz it up by just putting these kind of useless flaps on it. But, well, they're not really useless because they make it look cool. So yeah. And again, I drew this way later. I was getting nostalgic for the end of 2014, so I decided to draw the things I was into at the time. You may recognize some of them. Yeah. And I hate this picture. I really hate this picture. This was basically what made me realize that I needed to get better at putting movement into the poses that I draw. This was what made me realize that. And I re-outlined the bleed through, and she looked annoyed, so I put that. Rose quartz. And I like to call this the cake demon. Rainbow quartz. And I re-outlined her. And some characters from a book that I'm trying and failing to write. And now I'm just procrastinating writing it, but yeah. Some hand practices that I did last year, which is why there's a dead meme in there. I think that meme was pretty much dead when I drew this as well, so yeah. Still. Yeah, I can't really remember. I wanted to draw something based on the faulty feline philosophy, and I also wanted to do like a dynamic pose, but at the time I couldn't really get to a reference because I was outside and my tablet was charging and the internet's really slow on my phone, so I had to try and do it from memory, and I actually managed to pull it off, and I was actually quite surprised, seeing as the last time I tried that it failed miserably. That's a very old doodle. Well, not really old, but it's from last year. I was getting hyped up for Disenchantment, and I hadn't seen it at that point, but I was really looking forward to it. I've seen like the first 6 episodes, I think, now, so I've only got a few more left to watch, and I really like it. I absolutely love it. Lucy is my favourite, and I knew he would be. But yeah, I love Disenchantment. This is fan art of a song called The Miserable Story of My Destruction by Ferry. I do not like this picture. I'm going to try and redo it. But the bleed through looked kind of like a murder scene, so I added that, and then I drew these characters reacting to it, and then I put plastic over it so it wouldn't smudge. Having fun with post-it notes. Yeah, the 100 uses for a post-it note could probably be the title of this sketchbook, because I use a lot of them in here. And this is like a sort of parody fan art with my OCs of the song, I'm going to mispronounce this, I know I am, but Aberrant Garden. Yeah, I decided it suited these two, but it could be like a mechanical garden instead. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense with those two characters. This, I was getting that weird sort of dreamy deja vu feeling again, which I mentioned in an older sketchbook tour, which I unlisted because the audio is terrible, because I kept putting the thumb over the microphone, and I didn't realise I was doing it, but I also had these two songs in my head which sort of magnified the feeling, and so I decided to try and just pick up a pen and just sort of draw and try and capture the feeling that way. These numbers do not mean anything, they're just random numbers. Yeah. And then this I drew way later. This was also sort of also about that weird feeling again, and it was also based off a song. It was actually Rhinestone Eyes by Gorillaz, because the song had been in my head all day. And I wanted to draw something. It inspired me to draw this. I don't know. Yeah. And this thing, I don't know. It was inspired by a comic that I read. And then the background is actually post-it notes. So yeah, more uses for a post-it note. And I redid it with the bleed through because the bleed through looked cool. And finally, a pose practice. There's a lot more of these in here. But yeah. That's just a random drawing of a minor character. Another pose practice. Some really random things. Another pose practice, and I picked Shantae because I wanted to try and do a picture of Shantae that actually had movement in it. Uh, remnants of like a collage I was making. I had some extra things that I didn't use for it, so I just stuck them here. I love Nichijou. And this is a terrible drawing, but I didn't want to throw it away. This was just some failed character ideas. And some really random things. And some things that I like. Puss in Boots, Dory. That's from the TV show, TV series Humans. And the cat from Red Dwarf. He's my favourite character. I love him. C from Hello Charlotte. My cat, and a cat that lives in the neighbourhood, and his name is Oscar. More Hello Charlotte. I doodled on the bleed through again. I like that thing. Doodle. Focus, damn it! This camera will not... Okay, there we go. Okay, I don't know if any of you remember Honey Swirl from my previous sketchbook, but this was from the same dream that Honey Swirl was from. There was a song, I wrote it here, actually. Creepy Cactus was from the same dream as Honey Swirl. It was an old Circus P song from 2011 or 2012, featuring Gumi and a really weird bad CGI video of a brown cactus with a weird face chasing Gumi through a desert. It got popular, then forgotten after a while. Years later in 2018, Circus P redid the song. Gumi sounded better, the previously simple background music was now epic, and the video with a static image of Gumi drawn by Slepu looked awesome. Everyone loved it. I listened to it on repeat. Months later, I found the old Creepy Cactus video on YouTube and watched it for nostalgia kicks. It was so weird. Yeah. So I decided to draw it. The Distortionist, again, and that's my birthday. I drew this on my birthday. Yeah. More post-it notes. This was a picture I cut out of a magazine, which looked really cool. Yeah, and more Hello Charlotte fan art. The cat page, but there's a lot more cats in here. But yeah, a lot of cats, and there's also my cat. This is a thing. This exists. And this was from a birthday card that I got. I thought I'd stick it in. Some OCs. Yeah. And again, I drew over the bleed through. I'm too not real for this. Two of my OCs in that 30s cartoon style. They're like the OTP of my OCs. They're probably like the longest standing couple. Yeah. A doodle I did in a waiting room. This. I printed out this drawing I did a couple of months ago, and then I cut bits of it out and stuck it in places. And this was originally a very edgy vent that I scribbled somewhere, and then I sort of redrew it as something kind of nice-ish. Like, I mean, it's still kind of sad, but it's a nice picture. It's no longer an edgy vent. Yeah. And I left the bleed through as is because it's nice. And this was inspired by a dream as well. Yeah, this was inspired by a dream. Random things. This was originally going to be just a single pose practice, and it turned into a full picture. It was literally just going to be her, but then I had space, so I drew these two. And I redesigned her later on in the sketchbook. Doodle from months ago. Another OC couple who I never draw. I never draw them together, and I never draw him either. Every time I try to draw him, it goes wrong, so I'm very glad I managed to pull it off this time. So I finally drew them together, so that's cool. More things from that picture, and Flowey. And this was also from a dream. It was a weird alternate universe version of Blue Diamond from Steven Universe, and all of the diamonds had like this part of them that was basically kind of like the bubbles that they make. So yeah, that's all gem shards and fish, I think. It looks like fish. I can't even remember. This she's also from a dream. Yeah, I dreamt about mermaids, mer people, and there were some mer people who had wings, like fins that were basically wings, and they could fly. And there was like a whole history about like the coexistence of mermaids with wings and ones without wings. Yeah. This is where I'm going to end part one. Um, but yeah, this is going to be the last thing I show in part one. So I did that thing that I did in my previous sketchbook where I did a watercolor wash over a drawing and then I colored over it. And then I attempted to do a background. I do get better at backgrounds later on in this sketchbook, I promise. But yeah, this is all... Everything in here is based off things I've dreamt about. Yeah, mouses was something from a dream. And yeah, there was a reason why it was called... I don't know if there was a reason why it was called mouses, but it was mouses and not mice for some reason. I don't know why. And I've got a little script of what the characters are saying. And lapis drawn on a post-it note. And Marvin the Paranoid Android, because I was finally reading the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. And I really love the way he looks in the film. I just think he's adorable. So I just drew him. So yeah, this is where I'm leaving part one. So stay tuned for part two.